My guest today is Fiona Reynolds, who is CEO at the Australian Institute of Superannuation Trustees. AIST is a not-for-profit organisation that promotes and protects the interests of Australia's not-for-profit superannuation sector. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me here, Suzi.
Does Australia in general have a superannuation problem?
Yes, we do. Basically, our superannuation system only started in the 90s. So people don't have a great deal in superannuation. We only got to 9%, people pay 9% super in 2002. So most people are fairly underfunded when it comes to their superannuation, but this is a long range program. So future generations will be able to retire with 12%, 9% super that they will have had for all of their life. But the generations in between are still going to need to rely on a combination of their own savings, probably the aged pension, and some form of superannuation.
When it comes to women in superannuation, there's some unique aspects about the issues that women face when it comes to retirement. And I know that one of the things you're passionate about is improving their financial incomes at retirement. Tell us a little bit about that situation.
Well, because superannuation is really linked to your participation in the full-time workforce and how much you earn, women are really behind the eight ball, because we all know that women in general earn less than men. They are predominantly in low-paid jobs. They often are in part-time and casual work. So, and they of course spend time out of the workforce raising children and often acting as carers. And this really works against women in a superannuation point of view. So women have half the savings when it comes to retirement as men. And we still find, surprisingly today, that a lot of women still have an attitude of, it'll be right, I'm in a marriage, I'm in a partnership, I'm going to be okay. And they put themselves second, as they often do, but from a financial point of view and thinking about retirement savings, they still put themselves second.
So we know that it's not a mystery that women are earning less. They're spending less time in the workforce. We already have, especially for women of a certain age now, that superannuation, because it hasn't been around that long, isn't going to be sufficient. So if we know the playing field is not level, organisations like yours are lobbying and doing work to help correct that. But what can we as individuals, as women, do to empower ourselves when it comes to our finances?
Well, I think it's really important that women get educated about investing, all kinds of investing, not just superannuation, but certainly about your retirement savings. Don't just think that I've got the partner and he will look after me and everything will be fine. We know that 1 in 4 marriages end in divorce. And he may have superannuation, but when you split it in half, you both don't have enough.
Right.
So you need to be saving for yourself. You need to be making extra contributions where you can, at the stages of life that you can. It's probably not feasible that you can make extra contributions when you're trying to pay off a big mortgage and raise a couple of kids, but you might be able to do that when you're a little bit younger or when you're a little bit older. So put extra savings away. There's a number of government schemes that have been particularly useful for women. So there's a co-contribution scheme where the government will match your contributions up to $1,000 if you earn under a certain amount, and it's around about $70,000. So really, that's a bit of free money and people should take advantage of it. It's a way to boost savings. But we still need the government to do a lot more to assist women. And I think there's some practical things, like with the new paid parental leave scheme. Well, why doesn't that have a superannuation component on it, is one of the things that we keep asking. It is replacing your wage, and super's part of your wage, and we need that mindset that super goes with everything that is being replaced as salary.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it
to
makes
not have it included.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all, because that's a key time when women miss out, when they're raising their children and they're off on maternity leave. And so why not have that then you're at least getting some contributions. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it's something. And superannuation is one of those things that small amounts and compound interest over a long period of time make a huge difference.
Do you feel like there's a resistance to financial education? Do women still rely on the fact that perhaps they have a partner that may be male, that they may rely on? I just don't understand why more women aren't more responsible for their financial future.
I don't understand it either, and it's compounded when it comes to thinking about retirement, because people think that retirement is something that's so far away, and I will worry about that later. But you have to start worrying about it early if you're really going to be able to fund your retirement and what you want to do in retirement. You've got to start early, and it's just a really difficult thing to get people engaged. I think there is still someone else will take care of it kind of mentality. Right. I think there's another problem there's so many women in Australia who are self-employed, which is fantastic, but those that are self-employed don't actually have to make superannuation contributions in the same way that a wage earner does, where it's automatically that you've got the 9% superannuation contribution. And we really worry about the people who are self-employed and aren't planning for their retirement. I think those that are self-employed need to even more be thinking about understanding investing, making sure that they have some form of superannuation and they are at least making some contributions. Because I think it used to be traditionally that people used to think, well, I'll sell my business and that will be my superannuation. But I don't think that you can just rely on that. A lot of superannuation funds run free seminars for people on a whole range of issues about retirement incomes, and I'd encourage people, particularly women, to go to one of those seminars and find out what they can and ask all the questions that they need.
One of the things that I've always thought that is when we've worked so hard all our life, whether it's employed by someone else or for ourselves, surely at retirement we want to have a better lifestyle, more income than when we're working, whereas a lot of people in the past have tended to want to think that they just need to live on a little bit less as they get older. But I really believe that good investment, there's no reason why your income can't continue to grow as you get older, as opposed to diminish.
Yeah.
And that comes with good education.
Exactly. We've actually just done some research looking at how women are living in retirement now. And for a lot of women who are on the age pension, for example now, they were brought up through the war years where you were very frugal, and they've still got that mentality. And they lived in one income families in the main, where the husband went out to work and they stayed at home, and there was more children. So you just lived a lot more simple life. But I think for the next generation, certainly my generation, we have much higher expectations about retirement. The age pension is not going to be how we are going to want to live in retirement. We want and will demand more, but the government is not going to be able to pay for all of those things for us. They'll have a baseline, but if we want more, we have to do it for ourselves.
Okay. In closing, what we do like to do is ask our women guests to leave us with some career advice. What are some of the strategies or the principles that have held well for you to succeed in the area that you've chosen as your career?
Sure. I think that women often underestimate their abilities and they don't put their hand up for things because they think that they're scared of failure. And I think that, you've got to break through that fear of failing at something, because often if you try things, you will succeed. And if you don't, well, you dust yourself off, you pick yourself up and you go on to the next thing. Failing in things is all part of the journey of being a successful person, not just successful in careers. And I think women just have to get out there more and be prepared to take some risks. That will be one of my things. And I think that also women need to put their hands up for things. So participate in committees, participate in all kinds of groups. Say that you will do the extra, the extra things to get experience. I think we can do a lot more. I realise that it's often harder for women because at the end of the day, for a lot of women, you've got to say, I've got to go now. I have to pick up the kids from childcare, or I've got to do this, that and the other. But I think you've got to make sure that you set aside some time for your own career progression and networking and all of those kinds of things.
Fiona, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Suzi.